Who's us? Who's us? Who's us? Us who? Where's this guy work for?
Yeah, Tom Jackson.
Oh, for Tom Jackson, gotcha.
Yeah, for Tom Jackson.
So we've already started to do nice vote.
No, but I guess.
Good job. Well, actually, I personally vote on the election.
But you're
But I think-
us.
But I will be, well, that's what they're pushing, for both sides. If I have to walk on coals over what it takes on election day, I will do that.
Here and not vote right after my district.
Yeah. Are you voting in your question?
No, I think, no, that's. You lost it in your.
Thank you.
But they don't have
You can.
conflict of interest, so otherwise they won't be work on,
Most people have always looked in their own district.
not, I'm not in the election part of it. They said no.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll bring this Public Works Committee meeting to order. This was posted as required by state law. Everybody's here. And we'll stand for a moment of silent prayer. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let's start with the meeting minutes from last month. Did everybody look at them? Any questions, concerns, changes? Now we'll file them as read. We move on to three. Now we're gonna move this, go out of order a little bit here because we have people in the audience. So we're gonna try to look through some of the important things first. So item 3F, access appeal, County Highway M, Town of Farmington. You need a motion in a second.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Hartwick, second by Supervisor Graff. Is there anything you want to touch on this, Scott?
Yes, so this application for an appeal came to the Washington County Highway Department. You bring up the aerial photo here. If you didn't. Oh. Get people sick. And so how this came about was many years ago, the owners came and applied for an access permit on the north side there. That's the blue to the north on County Highway M. It's about a half mile north of County Highway A in town of Farmington. That was granted with certain restrictions that was put on by the highway committee at that point. And so that's why it's coming back to you today, is that they're looking for a second access point to be the north one being residential, the southern one being an agricultural use for the parcel, farm parcel, field that is south of the residential home that's on that property. And so being that they don't comply with having multiple access points to the same parcel, as well as the previous note that was put on by the previous highway committee, that's why you're seeing it before you today, that staff could not approve this and had to go to the committee to approve this variance for this use. The staff is in favor of the use. There is a agricultural field right across from here versus you can see it's about a quarter mile or so. If they want a farmer came in the northern access and drove around the back side of the house to get to this field and back versus the possibility of that farmer driving through the ditch and putting dangerous condition onto the roadway and muddy conditions. So staff is in favor of this and with restrictions that are in your packet as well. We would appreciate those in the motion as well as written in the packet.
Yeah, reading through this, you said that sight lines and safety is not an issue, right?
Correct. It meets the spacing requirements as well, moving it north or south. You got to start eliminating those. That's got good sight distance, especially with agricultural vehicles, which typically step a little bit higher than normal too. But even regular vehicles, it's a good spot for a driveway to be. Like I said, it matches the one right across the street as well.
Right. Does anybody in the committee have any questions? Seeing no questions, we'll vote. All approved, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next item, we're gonna jump down to H, 2025 ordinance, County Highway W, no parking and State Highway 33 to Zerns lumber. I need a motion and a second for this as well. Motion by Supervisor Vispolik, second by Supervisor McCool, excuse me. Now would you like to touch base again?
Yes, this was brought before the Traffic Safety Commission, back on March fifth. Look at areas of potential no parking, for safety concerns. This is on County Highway W. This stretch of road was recently reconstructed by the County Highway Department. It's just south of 33 in Allenton. The Traffic Safety Commission took it up, took public comment on that, I don't know how long it was, but we discussed it for quite a bit, a long time. We had a resident there, the Allenton Fire Department chief was there, and the property owner that owns the apartment complex right at the corner of 33 and Highway W was also present at that meeting, and allowed to speak on this. After much discussion at that meeting, I know Supervisor McCulloch was there and present as well. The determination is to what the recommendation is from Traffic Safety Commission is to restrict parking on the west and south side of the roadway. That's where on the map that's up there is number 1 and 2, and allow parking on number 3. I'll go down to there's a bunch of photographs that are in your packet as well with the vehicles that are parked there. Restricting people's sight distances that are in the driveways as now, and you know, find the drawing. And so this is the recommendation that's in your packet right now. Obviously on the east side of the road, which is the right side, as you look at it, right in front of farmers' grain bins there. That's a turn lane for Highway 33, so obviously no on traffic parking in the turn lane. And on the west side, you'll see we got no parking again. It's no parking from the curb towards the roadway, not behind the curb. So people at the apartment complex can still park behind the curb where they are right now. If you're looking at the area photo in the upper left-hand corner, you can see that. The current parking restrictions that's in your county ordinance right now does not allow parking across a driveway or within, I believe it's either 4 or 5 feet within a driveway. So you can see that they're limiting only a few stalls on the south or west side of the street. We also extended all the way down because of the safety issue of coming, not only the safety issue, but the 2 driveways up here coming in and out with traffic coming around the corner on 33. But also the safety issue of people around this corner going southbound, that people are going into their vehicles or exit their vehicles, the sight distance going around the corner. But then again, allowing parking on the east side of County Highway W through that entire stretch. So that was the recommendation by the Traffic Safety Commission to the Public Works. And if the Public Works approves it as such, it will go to the county board for full county board review and approval. And be certainly happy to answer any questions that you may have on this agenda item.
You know, I didn't think about it the way you explained it, but no parking, you can't park anyway by the driveways and stuff. So in looking at that a second time, there is a very small amount of areas that are going to be left with no parking. I thank you for that explanation. I didn't think about that looking at it initially.
So the one question I have, Scott, is what you have up here is different than what we have in our packet, right?
Oh, that's in your packet. It's just a little bit further down in the agenda packet. The original drawings, which are more unprofessional, we have 1, 2, and 3 kind of labeled on it. That was what went to the Traffic Safety Commission,
Okay.
and that was what the recommendation was.
Areas recommended for parking, second from the bottom.
I got that now.
Yeah.
I see it now. So, and then the other question I have for you, Scott, just for clarification purposes, is in their recommendation, it says Traffic Safety Commission recommends approval denial. Not, there's.
Oh, the Traffic Safety Commission recommended approval, but your motion is you can either agree with that and approve it, or
Okay,
if you want to commit the Public Works here could deny it too. So we kind of put that in the motion. So if you're in favor of it, the motion is for the approval. If you have been contacted by people and you have a different opinion, then you would rate the motion as a denial.
okay, I thought they were making a, a recommendation of approval or something like that.
No, the recommendation was for approval, it was unanimous at the Safety Commission,
Okay.
if I remember correctly.
Is
Yes.
there-
Yep.
Sounds good. Is there any other questions from the committee? Seeing none.
So you should clarify the approval or denial as well.
Approval.
You should clarify.
So we should, okay, so we're voting for approval, okay, so everybody understands.
Approval.
Or denial.
Approval,
It's not a public comment.
there is no, yeah, that wasn't during the safety meeting. We'll vote to approve the no parking. Does that make sense?
That's the motion.
That's the motion,
Mhm.
yes. So all for the approval, say aye.
I,
Any no nays? Seeing none, motion carries. Okay, now we're gonna go back in order here, and go up to IT quarterly report.
All right, good afternoon. Just real quick updates, highlight some things that were completed since last time. On page 1, we have the Microsoft Access databases. They were converted over to a Washington County app, so a lot of different things for the planning parks, natural resources department that was completed. On page 3, moved to Office 365. We've had a lot of movement with departments interested in moving files to the cloud, so utilizing more of our cloud services for files storing. So it's not complete, but that's gonna be an ongoing process probably for the next couple of years, but we are starting to make some really good headway on that. On page 5, enhancements to IT infrastructure. All the switches at the sheriff's office are now complete. They're operable. They've been running for a couple weeks now. So that's good. I know that one we were behind on. This summer, we plan to start on the public agency center, replacing their switches. And then also this summer, the wireless around the county. That's not even pretty age. I'm happy to report our 2025 security audit has completed. If you remember last year, I reported that our score, or kind of like our FICO score for credit was 633. This year, 749.
Wow.
So a lot of that was hiring our security position. That was a big intake. We've also purchased some better software to help update computers, which is proving to be effective. Those are the biggest updates. And then the town of Erin, we're starting to get Microsoft agreements signed for them, and we'll continue on with their IT shared services. And then we'll kind of give that a rest and monitor the rest of the year, see how IT shared services are going.
Okay, sounds good. Now, when you said, what was it, 745 out of what, 800, or what's the top mark?
I think it's 850,
850?
right?
It's like a credit score.
Just like the credit score. Yeah, in fact, it's 350 to 850. And we are selling pretty well.
Awesome. And with all these other, again, with the shared services, with all these other villages and stuff that we've completed in townships, everything's still going smooth like it was last month, and you're having no problems with them?
Yeah, everything's going well. There are some projects going on, Village of Kewausee has their building project. So we're heavily involved in that. That's actually becoming due in April here when they start moving back to their new building, getting ready for May. But no, it's going well.
Okay. Any other questions? Supervisor Coolidge.
Yeah, Joel, I had a question. So on the very first page and the very first item, the land resources. And next generation permitting. So and that was 7/31 of 24, and it says it's on track. Like, I mean, how much of that do you feel is can somebody do online of the different permits on here, like non-metallic mining permit applications, all this kind of stuff? How much of that is running online?
A lot of these permits are up and running. There are 2 permits that we are waiting on. I know one is the county highway access utility permit, which we're waiting to work with
Not on us.
on Scott.
Okay.
And then there is one other permit that we're working with planning and parks. Just on tweaks and changes before we go live with it, but I'd say, 80% of those.
So 80% you can do this online, so
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
No other questions? Is that all you got?
That's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Move on to item D, transit quarterly report.
Oh,
How are you doing?
doing good, how are you? So it was updated, but it looks like it was pulled before I updated it, the second and third goal, those are both, actually, the second goal is on track. We did amend, I guess. That's another item here, is amending the policies and procedures.
Oh.
For the changes that we made, to the hours at the beginning of this year. And then. As you know, we're also evaluating the weekend service, for the taxi. Then we're also looking at, we're going for a request for a proposal, this year for the taxi service, so. We're also looking at the service, that would be included in the contract for next year.
Anybody else have any questions?
Any question? So on the shared ride taxi ridership, when I look at the cost per hour, bottom right corner. Boy, that number moves every year up by like 10% a year.
Well, that's the next agenda item.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The quarterly reports right now, and then next can be the numbers.
Thank you, sir.
So we want to jump to the next one then? Does anybody else have any
Your
questions
call,
for this
Mr.
one?
Chair.
Okay, well, actually, the county crash data, is that what you're talking about?
The transit ridership data.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Transit
sorry, you're on
ridership
the
data.
quarterly, transit ridership report.
Yeah.
There we go, okay,
Yeah.
we'll jump right into that then. Did you want to start with your question then?
I mean, yeah, that was it. It's just, I'm just curious at that cost per hour, that seems to be even with inflation that. The cost for that service on an hourly basis, boy, that keeps moving.
Okay, yeah, I definitely have been digging into the trips per hour and seeing what we can do. One thing, because that's, the cost per trip is, directly tied to the trips per billed hours.
Yeah.
Get more trips in per hour, then, we can reduce that cost per trip. If we can, so we already, that was part of the goal of reducing the schedule to 8 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock. But definitely, it still went up, the contract did go up for this year. As it does annually, the contract goes up. So we will see what that effect has done. I guess I can do a. Yeah, so that is one thing we tried doing. I've been looking at the data behind the trips per hour, seeing what kind of trips are causing such a high cost per trip. What kind of farther trips and what kind of purpose, and seeing when those trips are, and seeing if we can work with our provider on being more efficient with those trips and possibly grouping those together. So I've been digging into the data on those trips now that we've already made that adjustment to the hours.
I would think that's kind of difficult to do, seeing that it's on demand, right? You try to. I mean, this whole taxi thing is on demand. When a person needs you, they gotta go somewhere, so. Trying to be more efficient and stuff like that with routes is kind of difficult.
It can be hard with cancellations and no shows that can definitely affect the planning of the service.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the chairman, so the reason I just make that observation is because you look at that and you just think those increases, that's not sustainable, but I think we know that, and the model's gotta be kind of looked at and seen. So as we've talked about making changes to this, it's not just, well, you want to make change just for the sake of change. You have to make change because it's an unsustainable path that we have to at some point look at and use all this great. Again, the data is always great. I mean, you have, every touch point that you need to look at, we have here. But I mean, yeah, those annual increases, and I understand why it's happening. It's just something though that at some point we'll have to probably make some more decisions on.
I think, we'll constantly keep an eye as we have for the last, as long as I've been here, we've been keeping this on there, and I think it's a good thing we do.
Yeah.
Because it is something that the costs are going up, and we just need to keep an eye on it and find out what we need to tweak to keep it in control.
Yeah.
So it doesn't get, become a total drain on the account.
Yep.
Like you said, for value, right?
Exactly.
Are there any other questions on this? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the county crash data map review.
Back up.
And while you're setting up, I guess, one thing I looked at with this, it seems like the majority of crashes happen on the state highways. I'd like to point that out.
Well,
They got out of 50 in the 3-year period, seemed like 20 of them were on the state highways.
Yeah, so yeah, just getting into this a little bit, first and foremost, I want to thank the efforts of Mike Vanderstand from GIS, because he's the mastermind behind these maps, is always a great guy to work with. So yeah, this data all came from the TOPS lab, that's the Traffic Operation Safety Lab from UW Madison. So same data sources, our intersection and roadway safety plans. They tie together really nicely with those plans, using this as kind of like a summary. Our other plans had a slightly different 5-year window when we looked at the data. The plans were 2018 to 2022 with consideration for 2023. These are a little bit more recent, looking at data from 2020 to 2024, so there's a little bit of halfway overlap between those. Yeah, as you can see on the countywide map that shows all of the crashes countywide, you can definitely see concentrations of crashes in the urbanized areas on the freeway. Not as many severe crashes, you got more fatalities, just kind of deal with more rural areas, some on the freeways as well. But overall, it's a really nice tool to have. These maps are made to be plotted on a large size, hard to see it on the screen here.
Sure.
Even on a bigger sheet here that I have in front of me. So much more effective when they're plotted out larger. If you look at the countywide or the county highway system map only, kind of highlighting what's within our control here for the county government. Whenever we see the fatalities really kind of pop off the page when we look at that, at least in my opinion. Scott and I, we reviewed fatalities with the sheriff as soon as possible, day after. We like to touch base and see if there's anything within our control that we can do for any kind of severe or significant crash out there. You can see a little bit of a cluster down by Highway Q, down in the southeast quadrant there, just around the freeway. That's all shown in our plans as well. That's just our highest volume area of the county highway system. So that nothing is real alarming as far as what we didn't already know was going on the county highway system. We will be creating maps for all of the local municipalities. So zooming into each town, city, and village and producing a map specifically for them that they can utilize, that they can post in their town halls or whatever, and generate discussion for safety. We will be working with them as well for their own intersection and safety and roadway plans. But this is a really good starting point, just having this on the wall, so they can start thinking and start generating some discussion. Also on the bottom of the maps here, you can see that graph. You can zoom in on the graphs there on each one of the maps. If you look at the countywide map that has all of the crashes, the numbers keep climbing up. You'll see that dip in 2020 with COVID going on and not many people were traveling. it declined pretty significantly there. That's been pretty steady on the rise. And then if you look at the county highway system map, the one that county highways only. It dropped in 2020 and then it held pretty steady. For a couple of years, there's a little bit of an uptick over the last year, but. To me, I think that's a good sign as far as trends, just relative to everything else going on and in general, traffic volumes. Increase year to year with higher population, so. To me, that tells us we're doing something well within our control here in our system, so we're gonna try to keep that going. You guys have any questions on anything or anything we should jump off the pages to you?
No, one question, oh, I'm sorry,
No,
Supervisor McCool, now you go first.
so, the one I find, intriguing and sort of, and there's anecdotal evidence of this, and then I saw when I was on here. You know, Highway K and 41, which is a route I take pretty frequently, and I see accidents, but yet that's a really. It's a good road and it's pretty clearly marked and other than a hill, but boy, there seems like there's a lot of accidents.
You're talking on, not just on, you're talking on Highway K?
Yeah.
Just near the freeway?
Yeah,
Yeah, unfortunately, there was a fatality there. I
Yeah.
believe that was a reckless driving, extreme speeding situation.
Oh, okay.
So, but yes, there's, there's turning movements there, obviously with the interchange. Yeah, I don't know why this.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at it and there's never really a lot of traffic there, and it always seems like, I don't know. That one's always struck me as sort of odd, and I know there's been some bad, or I've seen some bad accidents on them, I could never figure out what it was, like if it was wind or topography or. You
Yeah,
know,
the sight lines are good on K.
Yeah.
You got a little bit of a valley down under the
yeah,
highway.
it's a nice road, I mean, I don't
Everything's wide, you got long turn lanes.
Yeah. get it.
So it's just more human error.
A lot of human error out there. for sure.
Yeah, I don't get
I
it.
mean, well, I don't think what is it, is it's not speed, I don't know what the limits, I don't know the road, but if you take it.
45 they can do there, right? Or K is. Oh, 50? 55. 55.
Oh, it's-
Yeah, I thought for some reason I thought it was 45 when we went through there.
We do, that is included in our intersection analysis, and so. Must not hit our top, 10, 15 of them, so.
Yeah, it was all reconstructed on the west side of that as well, and not too long ago, that whole stretch has been resurfaced. and
Yeah.
Physically, I think the road is what it needs to be out there.
Any other questions?
So I think, just to kind of put a bow on this topic, we will be hosting it's called the roadway transportation discussion with all local governments. I sent the email, the invite went out probably a half hour before this meeting. So I sent it out to every single municipality. This committee was included on that as well, several other people. So on April 16th, at 9 AM, we host this meeting. It's an annual thing. We have a really productive discussion with anybody that does attend that. And this will be one of the topics that we go over, as well as our intersection roadway safety plans. These maps, and generate discussion there as well, so. If you can make that, that's great, so we cover a lot of things in that meeting, this is just one item on a long list. But. So. It's a really good, productive discussion that we have that day.
Yeah, real quick, when you talked about, sharing these maps with the local municipalities, is that part of the shared services, or is this just above and beyond?
We've
something
been doing this, so these maps are created every few years. We just, whenever we talk to Mike, hey, can you update the crash severity maps every few years in general? Then we create them, he just kind of crops it down into each municipality. And produces them all, we just send a PDF, I email to them, so it's not part of the shared service, it's been going on.
We've been doing
several
this.
years, yeah, they really
Okay.
appreciate that.
Okay, awesome. Anything else? Let's go.
Yes, I just thank Josh. Josh is our traffic safety coordinator for Washington County. He does a great job of looking at this, looking at that data. And it's not just a map that just gets put on a shelf, from our safety analysis that we've done before. So appreciate that. And if I could just pull your attention to the screen, just so you can look at that. What it has, the circles are the fewer crashes, small circles, the bigger crash, the more crashes that are happening there. And the green for this instance are property damage only. So you see, yes, along Highway Q, there's quite a few crashes, but you can see again that, the heat thing, it's more green, which means more property damage and less injury accidents. So it's when we start looking at that circle, and when that circle gets more magenta versus green, is when we start like, okay, now there's really a problem here, and you start focusing on those first and then working way out from there. So like, for instance, we did a four-way stop there several years ago with the reconstruction, because you can see again, that was basically called 50-50 of crashes with injuries, crashes without, so we gotta do something. And that's why those kind of raise the top more of urgency than a couple fender benders. That might happen at a roundabout, or they can come out of Q, which has just so much traffic at it.
Sure.
A lot of these spots, we've already done treatments that this might reflect data that's before we made improvements. And some things might be brand new that I will tell.
So hopefully we'll get better in certain areas that we fixed, right?
Correct. If you look at the roundabout by Q and 164, it's got one of the larger green circles, our county highway down there, but you can see the most of the circle is green. And so where we'd love to eliminate all crashes, it's much more important to eliminate the fatalities and injury crashes first.
Is that just people learning how to use a roundabout? I mean,
I think a lot of crashes have to do with patience and
well, that's,
looking both ways.
yeah, rather, like, beat this truck, right? Type of deal, but no, I've seen people that sit there not sure how to, okay, what am I doing here,
I
right?
think it's getting better. roundabouts.
I think people are starting to get familiar with them, but it does take time.
I think the distraction of the cell phone is
Still,
outweighing the knowledge of roundabouts.
okay. Could
Seems to
be,
be a common factor.
could be. Any other questions? Is that all then, Josh?
That is it.
Awesome,
Thank you.
thank you. Item number E, master plan update report. Yes, I've been hearing an awful lot of this lately.
So be a repeat for the sheriff.
Yeah,
And so, this committee might recall that there is, the county board chair created a building committee to look at the remodeling of this building. The county board, just recently, approved the funding for it, the borrowing for the project. And so we are in full swing right now, and, the plan you see in the packet has been seen by the building committee in January, February, and in March now. So we're really starting to narrow down, the footprint of the building. The executive committee took up last night whether the clinic should be on campus or not, and the decision was to keep the clinic on campus. So the clinic will go on the second floor of this building. We are considered the first floor, even though it's in the basement. This is first floor, second floor is above us, third floor above that. And so without going into a lot of detail, but what we're looking at doing and why we're looking at doing this, which I know you're all familiar, is to is create that security checkpoint for foot traffic coming to the building. B is to get one central location of people coming in. And I'll pick up, and in the hallway, just before we started this meeting, there was a gentleman who couldn't find his way. And I came out there, and Mr. Spalak was kind enough to stop him, and I came out there to help him. And just anecdotally, the people that get very confused in this building by coming in one door and having to go all the way through the building to the other, and having a nice main entrance. I think it speaks volumes that just happened to happen right before our meeting, and have the main foot traffic departments being at that main entrance, being the Justice Center or the clerk, register of deeds, or treasurer. So very important to get them in one centralized location. Also, we looked at that jury room. The building is currently being used for voting. If you don't know, the city of West Bend utilizes this building for voting purposes. Room 2024, right above this second floor by the county clerk. So they are looking at that, and originally was looking at having that jury room also be available for voting purposes, that people are coming voting doing there. And we're adjusting the lobby area where security comes through to allow for voting, so when they come to vote, they don't have to go through security. So that's a topic of good discussion at the building committee, and probably a little more discussion on that. If they want to continue that practice of voting or not in the building, I think that'll come back before them one last time before we have to finalize the plans and move on. I did have some great conversation with the sheriff's department earlier today about security. There was a good discussion again with the building committee on security on Monday. And as long as we keep our configuration of access points that we do right now, to get from this building to the Justice Center, you have to go through sets of doors that have key card access to them. And as long as we keep those key card accesses, the sheriff is in tentative agreement that there's rules for the Justice Center, or can go in and out of the Justice Center, and rules for the Government Center, which is this building, which could be separate and different. So for instance, if someone wanted to bring a water bottle into the Justice Center, the judges have all said there's no eating and drinking in the Justice Center. Now, someone comes to security and wants to come over to, let's say, this meeting, for instance, in the audience wants to bring their water bottle with them. That's something that the sheriff would potentially be amenable to, going, okay, in this building to a separate building, that might be a following feasible, and that, then the decision on what is allowed through security would be up to the county board. So I'm gonna be starting to work with the county attorney on what that looks like in the process. You already do have some regulations in place right now, is my understanding, so it's a matter of what you want allowed and don't allow in this building. So for instance, again, there's public side facing and private side facing, so on this floor, on the plan, you'll see a light yellow, that would be the public hallway, and there'd be a set of doors, again, right outside, halfway through the boardroom, so this would be employee and basically county board members only coming into the new west entrance. And so again, you'd have a secure area and an area that where the public went through security to get to the county boardroom. They'd allow you that, so the board members would enter and exit through the door to my left, and the public would enter through the door to my right, to allow for that. And then it also allows us then to have the different restrictions on the building. So if the county board was so intent to say, we want to have concealed carry for staff and county board members, you could do that because we are separate two different buildings. If we had free access between us and Justice Center, then that would not be allowed. And so that's the decision points that will come back to the, again, we allow concealed carry in this building currently. But if you want to change that, that's the board's purview to do that, by allowing that car key access between here and this building. So there's been a lot of movement on this just since Monday, already going forward. So again, so you're looking at there would be a room behind me that would be a conference room. Again, a room that the clerk could potentially use that during voting, she uses 2024. For not just voting, but then the ballots and stuff, or is a nice secure room there that she could potentially use. That's not too far away from her building. Again, you're coming in the main lobby, which is the purple. Then coming into the county clerk's office, to treasury registries right after that. You still come down to the board, and the facilities would be basically across the hall of where we're at right now. So I can give you a flavor for what the first floor would look like. Again, not touching this boardroom, not touching the restrooms, because they were just recently done, as far as the project for make sure they're ADA compliant. The next floor up, which we call, this is not to be used because we're keeping facilities on the main floor. Then the next floor up, we'll be looking at page 27. That's where the clinic is on there. That's where the clinic on the left side is yellow, is what you want to be looking for on that set of plans. And so on the second floor, coming in the west entrance, like most people do for this meeting, the clinic will be on your left side. That's where the old VA was. So you have to want to make sure the clinic is on the left-hand side. We have a break room and a conference room on the right-hand side or southern side when you come in. That's the old county board chairs room, and there's kind of a vestibule in that area. And then once you pass that, you have the clerk's area on the right, the treasurer, and the purchasing agents are in that process. So basically, the southern half of the building would be IT and GIS, in that gray location. Natural resources from across the street, Public Agency Center will go where the current treasurer and register of deeds are located. So they'll be located over across the street. There'll be some slight modifications. The district attorney will work with the new district attorney on modifications there to create an extra office in there and ensuring that the cubicles currently work within their area. We have some storage for IT use, and then community development, which is again across the street in the Public Agency Center. They're currently housed with natural resources, but they're now in a location that's right near natural resources. And again, the main stairwell and the elevator in that location, again, trying to get the public facing ones. GIS and the IT don't have too many people coming in from the general public to talk to that staff. And so again, we have to make sure that the public facing ones are on the second floor and available to them in a conference room back there. So again, some modifications, quite a few modifications to the second floor of this building. The third floor, the major modifications are going to the clerk of court's office. They have done a fantastic job of consolidating a lot of their paper into digital copies, so very appreciative of that. So they were this larger area here, and you can see their area reduces by maybe just under a quarter or so. And so the nice to have a nice conference room that's a little larger up there. The HR, which is right next to it, to utilize for training of staff, as well as new staff that's coming on board, their onboarding process. So do some modifications there, and then this nice long hallway so that if staff wants to get from one place to another, again, we'll have to have a door between there, which would probably be about a quarter of the way down the hallway as well, to separate again the Justice Center from the Government Center, but allowing for access for staff to get from one location to the other. The public would again be open to the yellow area, and the area which didn't get colored brown on this would then be private side or employee side facing. What that allows to is that it allows for most of the staff, like HR, can have a public entrance, but then they'd also have a private entrance if they need to. There's some kind of something going on in the building that's major, like active shooter or something like that. They have a way to get on the private side or employee side only out of that building. And we also look at some modifications to the executive and board suite. We create a room at the end of the hallway where there's a break room there for the county board chair potentially, an office for his staff, and then a conference room designated just for them, so that if for some day the county board chair and county executive don't get along, and which does happen in some other counties, there's an easy separation there of the executive branch versus legislative branch. By simply just adding in a few walls and doors, makes that separation pretty quick and painless right now. That they would have their own break area, conference room, staff, as well as their own conference room as well. And so there's some comments about there that conference room should be a door facing the hallway or inside, and we'll be working with the county board chair on that matter, and get a zoom in a little ways on that, but some of the details of should this staff come in here and come that way, or should the door be on the outside? So we'll work with the county board chair, and it doesn't matter to us much way which way the door is. So
Outside of the fact that, if I recall,
Yeah.
it's more difficult to put a door in the hallway, right? Because of
a little more challenging because
the construction.
correct, but we work with them and make sure that this management works for them. So with both of their staff. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. We're doing some modifications to the parking lot as well. We got the drafts of those plans on Monday. So working on that, get a little more parking, a little closer parking on the east side of this building. To make it more accessible to that. And we work with the sheriff's department as well. I do want to also go back to the second floor. With this area here, we were working with the sheriff's department this morning, and they're very happy that of the conversation we had with them, that they would allow the clinic, as you know, the clinic is available for all staff and their family members. And we're working on a system that instead of the family members coming through the main security, you can imagine an individual next to me has maybe 4 children, and some of them may be young enough in the stroller and have to bring all that through security first, and all the way to the other end of the building. The sheriff is agreeable of a system that might be, we have them a car key access, so they only get in that door, maybe I'll call it a ring doorbell type system where they could either access themselves in, but if they forgot their card, they could hit the doorbell, which should go right to the clinic and say, I'm here for my 10 o'clock appointment. They can verify the person's name, so they're not letting just anybody in that door. So we're working on the fine details on that, but I think that if we look at increasing use of our clinic, not having them go through security, maybe having to even park even further away, would be hopefully a step in the right direction. And again, they only have really access to get through that one door. The other doors would also be have car key access too, so they can't get anywhere else in the building. So if you have a disgruntled spouse, they can only get in the door and then, but not into any of the offices inside that space. Restrooms certainly, but not any other offices, so.
Are we putting a fence around this or gating that parking lot up?
No, it was determined, and we kind of briefly touched on that the first meeting back in January
Okay.
of not doing that. We would probably eliminate the The drive out of 33 would be in a short term, maybe a 6-month period with much signage to get people to get into the right direction. So not everybody's coming up and ringing that doorbell and coming up and coming up and coming up. And so staff would still come through the Wilson Avenue. It would still stay open because the school's going to stay open until 27. And so that there's actually, if you've ever been there at 3 o'clock or 3:30, you know, there's quite a few staff, people that are dropping the kids off or picking them up that park in our parking lot. And so we still allow that, they just have to come through Wilson and so jetting through the parking lot. So we want to make sure we're cutting that off for the short term, getting people going in the right direction until their Google and Waze and everything else catches up with that and wayfind them. So not everybody's coming out of their car because people don't go to the registry's office too often. They don't go to the clerk's office too often that they don't know it right away. So they said we'll have that blocked off for several months. And then again, if there's a voting thing too, you gotta go through the other entrance. Try to not upset them very much, but again, we'll work with Google and all those wayfinding applications to get them over there as quickly as we can. But again, people are future have it right. If they went and got a bigger tax bill 3 years ago, they're gonna want to go to the same place they tax bill or got their passport or going to do passport renewal. So it'll be a learning curve, but we're gonna try to get them directed in the right location. So at least they want to get out of the car, get frustrated, go into the door, just see a sign that says, yeah, drive around, and now you go all the way up to Wilson and back to Indiana and around, so.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to item G, shared ride taxi policies and procedures. Now, I'm assuming this is just a cleanup, right?
For the most part, yes.
Well, sorry. Yeah, we need a motion in a second. Motion from Supervisor Westfalen. Supervisor Hartwick. Thank you.
So we updated in this update to the policies and procedures for transit. We've had some questions about what agency fares are. So I just wanted to include that in the policies and procedures since they are mentioned as a fare type. So just include the definition of an agency fare, which is what a state organization would pay on behalf of someone. The person themselves, they do not pay the fare. So just want to clarify that in the policies and procedures. Then as well as update the hours of operation, it's already in effect, but just adding it to the document itself, policies and procedures.
Okay.
And as well as area of service. I noticed in the policies and procedures, despite the change in 2021 with the MOU for the cross county program. It is not included in the area of service in the policies and procedures, so just including that in the area of service section to include Ozaukee County into Ozaukee County, as the area of service. So any modifications to policies and procedures require approval of both works to.
Duly noted. Does anybody have any questions? Seeing none, all approved, say aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. And the last item, excuse me, 2025 resolution County Highway C, discontinuance of right of way. Need a motion in a second. Keep forgetting that word. Anybody want to jump in? Supervisor McCulloch and a second by Supervisor Barat. I have the floor, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm bothered that the whole work committee knows that anytime we have excess right away, we're looking at getting it back in the tax rolls or potentially even getting paid for it. The unfortunate thing is the way the right of way is obtained, we're not going to get paid for it on this time, but it will be going back in tax rolls. There is some still positive gain from Washington County. So you'll see on the screen up above and in your packet, Bipinger's Rest in Cedar Creek is in the lower left-hand corner, kind of cut off a little bit. They use this as their parking lot. And so they contacted us and asked us would be willing to sell that land back to them so they can expand their parking lot. If you look in, there's some rocks in that location. They've been kind of creeping into the right of way already a little bit. And so we looked at that right away and what we could potentially give back to the landlords, and give back in the tax roll. And that's that crosshatch area that you see there. I then went and approached the neighbor to the east to see if they'd be interested in that little triangular piece of land, since we're doing the neighbor property. And we still be able to keep that 50 feet of right of way. And they were also amenable to taking on that right of way. Again, there's no initial cost to them, but it does go back in our tax roll. So we want to do that to them and not know the consequences of taking over that land, albeit a very small. We're only talking a couple thousand square feet of land, or 1,000 square feet. It doesn't impact the taxes too terribly much over time. And why this was right away back in the day. The blue area that you see here before we did that reconstruct project was all the asphalt out there. If you remember from several years back, back to 2017, it was a massive asphalt out there. People got confused, a lot of crashes because you could pull out and drive up anywhere and park anywhere out there. And so you can see that by our restricting that access, we've been very fortunate out there to do that now. We actually said citizens at the time because we did have to move the road or whatever, but we've been very successful out there. And so we'd be looking for your approval. This would have to go to the county board as well for their approval. To get this land back in the tax roll. And the reason why we eliminated that right here was it's nice for these people that are coming on the road parking here before they come on off the Cedar Creek Road, they can see if someone always sees them making that turning movement.
Yeah.
And so that's why we kept this vision area here for us. And sometimes the neighbors cut that grass for us, and sometimes we have to go up there and cut the grass. But I think from a safety standpoint, we looked at it, it was very needing of us to make sure we kept the right of way that we did, that safety vision that's out there right now. Because once you sell that land or give that land, they can plant trees right up to that right of way line, and we really don't think that's a good thing to do. But both residents were very happy with the presentation that they have here today, and are both looking forward to the land and getting it back in the tax rolls.
You know, in history serves you correct. I think Schweiss, when they had the parking lot there, you never knew where the parking lot ended and the road started.
You are 100% correct, especially in winter.
Yes,
At
they were parking all.
1 in the morning, it was kind of a free for all.
It was.
It really, there was parking in front of here. And so by eliminating that, and really defining where people can travel, it's been a great improvement to the area.
Big improvement, you bet. Any questions from the committee? Oh, seeing none, all those say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No. Motion carries. Awesome. Next meeting date is, just lost my computer here. Next meeting date is April 17th, 2025. This meeting is.